I've lost count of how many times people have told me, you're too picky. You're difficult. Your standards are too high. Give him another chance. You're probably intimidating him. Maybe you should make yourself smaller. Your biological clock is ticking. Don't you want to have kids? You should put yourself out there more. How are you still single? Rarely am I asked, how are you? How do you feel with your partner? Do you like the person you are when you're with them? You're single? That's great. It's so important to take time to figure out who you are.
Preach, bitch. Like, what the hell? When I read that, it felt like it was so, like, truly emblematic of every young woman's experience with society of like, we give him another chance. Like, why don't you? And it's like, because I don't like him, because he makes me feel like shit, because it's toxic. Like, there's just so many things that women go through in their 20s and 30s when they're trying to find a partner. And so I want to talk to you. First of all, like, why did you decide to write this article? And I'll link it in the description, Daddy Gang, so you guys can all read it because it's amazing.
You're so sweet.
But why did you decide to write that?
I feel like I'm always trying to think about ways of how I can talk about things that are important to me, but it's also really important to me to be relatable, and I want to be relatable. And I know that so many people are going through so much different stuff. And I know for myself that I do feel the pressure. I love my parents, but I've literally had to tell them, like, you can't, like every time they would be like, well, we really want to have grandkids. I'm like, I would love to be a mom one day, but like, you can't control when you're going to find the right person. And I'm like, I love you guys so much, and I would love to give you grandkids, but let's just take a beat. And so they, like, I told them one time, and now it's like totally fine, but they're so well-intentioned. They're just excited. But I also will tell my mom and dad's stories, like when I don't have great experiences with dating, and because I want them to understand it's not easy to find that right connection. Yeah. And I think it's a very different time than when they were dating, when they were younger. And I just know that there's a lot of people who feel the pressure to find someone. And I think that especially in this Instagram social media world, there's so much pressure for like this perfect relationship, and we want to post the most perfect version of ourselves. And, you know, no matter who you are, nobody's life is perfect. No one's relationship is perfect. But I also think it's kind of interesting to me. It almost feels like there's this like pressure that in our late 20s, we're like supposed to find the right person. And I feel like the odds of us all finding that right person is just not realistic. And I wanted to sort of be a part of the narrative of trying to change that, because it is so much pressure. And I feel like even I was just for July 4th weekend, I was with friends, and just like the amount of people that were like, are you dating anyone? And I'm just like, I now, no matter what, am like, oh no, I'm not. I just don't. I also kind of feel more guarded and protective because I've shared so much publicly that I'm very protective over people that I date in my relationships, just because it should be sacred and special. And I think that it's really hard to find that good fit. And I also feel like, you know, I've gone through so much that I didn't really have the confidence to know who I was. And I feel like now I'm like just feeling more confident. Right. And it's really interesting because I feel like now I'm finally at the point where I feel like when I was younger dating in my early 20s, it was so hard in the early 20s because I was so afraid to like
tell me about it.
Even tell them like, wait, this makes me uncomfortable, or I don't want to do this. And now it's so interesting. The more I communicate, whether it's like from the first date or the first text, they're more into me because of it. Right. It's really interesting. And I feel really grateful for that, because it makes me feel, I feel like very quickly I realize who actually is really supportive and understanding. And it makes me, when I do communicate what would make me more comfortable and they're like totally fine with it, in fact, go out of their way to do that, it just makes me feel so much safer with them. So I'm going into dating very differently now, where I'm not as afraid to be like, I really would like this. This would make me feel good. Where I was so afraid. I think I was afraid they would leave. And then, and it's
actually
not right.
Like, amazing. Thanks for letting me know. I think that's so relatable, and thank you for sharing that, because boundary setting with a romantic partner, and when I say romantic partner, it could be your first date. Like, you're trying to come off like, you know, fun time girl, and like you want to not bring like your baggage and be like, when do we have this conversation? And there's so many things that everyone wonders. Like, I was having a conversation with my sister recently, and we were having fun girl talk, and like she was asking me a question, and I was like, this is such a good question. Like, she's dating, and she was like, is it weird if I bring this up here? And I was like, I don't think so. but you know what, if you do and he acts weird, leave the date.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that you second guess yourself for when you are dating. And I think it's so understandable because there are so many pieces of shit out there that can make you feel small and that can make you feel insane for bringing something up. And to have you now realize like, oh my God, I said what I've always wanted to say. And like, I was just met with like, amazing. Like, thanks for letting me know. And you're literally like, wait, but you probably couldn't have done that back then, not because you weren't actually capable of saying those words. It's a confidence thing. And it's like a learned habit that you just have to like exercise the muscle more to become, because it's actually not about them. It's all about you. It's about you being able to sit there and to advocate for yourself and be able to even express that, because maybe in your early 20s, you didn't even know you needed that.
Yeah.
You knew it was uncomfortable, but you didn't know why or like what to say or what, if you didn't want that, what did you want? Now you're like,
yeah,
she's figuring it out. I'm interested, like, have you ever kind of like continued seeing someone because you just felt like you were behind and you were like, fuck it. Like, I'll just keep kind of like, I'll go on another date because I'm single and like whatever, before you kind of like got to this new
it's
realization?
I feel like, yes, I have, but it's okay. Someone told me recently and it really helped me. Because I was saying, I was like, oh my God, I'm like so like cringing that I dated this person for so long. And they're like, if you're not looking back and cringing, you're not growing. And
So
I was
true.
like, that is what I needed to hear. That made me feel better.
Let's pause on that for all the daddy gang.
that
If
was
you
nice.
are so embarrassed by an ex of yours, me included, let's all pause. And you're so right. It just means growth.
Oh,
It's
my
growth.
gosh.
Thank God we're all cringing, being like,
But I'm just sometimes like horrified at the stuff that I would put up with, you know?
can
and
you give me an example? Like, obviously we're not talking specific people, but just like a little example.
I feel like it's interesting. Something that I've struggled with dating is that in the beginning, the guys are like really great.
Okay.
They're happy, they're chill. And also to what we were talking about before, I want a guy to communicate to me what they want too. And I also have had a therapist one time told me this and I've never forgotten it, because I used to like wait and then we'd talk about it and be like this whole thing where like, it's funny. I feel like if you bring something up when it's like just the littlest bit like on your mind versus like you have like a 30-second conversation about it and the other person's like, great. Like you're on the way to dinner. You're like, hey, by the way, this would like really mean a lot to me if we did this instead or didn't do this. And they're like, cool. Whereas if you wait till it happens like 50 times, then you have a 3-hour conversation about it. So I try to like also just bring it up really fast and then it's quick and it's done and then they like forget about it. It's not a big deal. And I would want the same
Such a good point.
for them. But I've struggled with, I don't know if it's because some of the guys I've dated maybe weren't like okay with my success or my life, but I feel like they've gotten very resentful and very moody. I don't know if like moody is the right word, but have you ever dated a guy that's very moody? Because it is just not fun.
Oh, it is miserable because then you're tiptoeing around them.
Everything's ruined.
You are on eggshells and it's, you know what it is? I feel like that's so interesting. I've had that where because of their insecurity about your success, through the moodiness and through the like the lashing out moments, it's a way, it's like a power tactic where it becomes all about them. Everything is on their terms and you're kind of like, wait, are we still going to dinner or are you pissed and we're just now going to sit here in silence? Like, what are we doing? And like everything is on their terms, but it's all like a manipulation tactic at the end of the day. And like, it may not be so manipulative in what they're doing. It's the insecurity that breeds this, like, how can I gain control because I feel so out of control because she's the one in a position of power in their mind. Meanwhile, you're literally like, in my success, that has nothing to do with you. Like, I'm here in this relationship. Why are we acting like moodiness?
Oh, it is like, I would say that's something that immediately like within like immediately I bring that up to any new guy I'm dating. I'm like, this is a total deal breaker for me. I can't, like, a guy is allowed to be upset or in a bad mood, but when you take it out on me and you're mean to me and you like ruin something that we're doing together, that's not okay. But everyone is allowed to, everyone has good days, bad days. Like if someone's in a bad mood and they're like, I'm in a really bad mood, but like I need, like, I'm gonna go to the gym or I need some space or like, can we talk about it? Totally fine. But when I'm sure you've had like when you do something together and you're like, we just went to this concert. I would have gone with my friend. Right. I'd rather you have not gone. Or like, why are we going to dinner together if you're just like miserable? Like, I would have rather you told me and we wouldn't have done that. So I just, that is something I look back and cringe on. I'm like, I think because I'm a people pleaser and I tried, I really wanted to help them. I didn't realize there's like a difference between being supportive to your partner and then having them treat you not well. So I am learning that, but that is something like I immediately bring up to a guy. I am like, that is a deal breaker for me, and I'm not going to be treated like that.
Hi Daddy Gang, thank you so much for watching this video. Keep in mind that was just a little clip from the episode. If you want to watch the entire full video episode, it is linked below. It's the first thing in the description. Go watch it. It's a great episode. Love you all. I will see you next Wednesday.